in Gen Z, they're not going to volunteer. I've seen videos of them talking about it. I'm like, no, you're right. This generation can't do it. The number of people you're going to have is just going to be, it's going to be a smaller force. I mean, compared to, I mean, how many, there's over 1 billion Chinese people. If the war breaks out with them, I mean, I don't want to get cataclysmic about this.
These wars don't just happen out of thin air. I think that's my point.
No, but we didn't start them. We didn't invade Ukraine, and we didn't attack Israel. That's a silly thing to say.
I think the Iraq War.
It's always very interesting how feminists are not happy when their ideology reaches its end conclusion, and that is exactly what was underscored in this recent debate between Bill Maher and Tulsi Gabbard, where Tulsi silences Bill on this question of feminism and whether or not women should be drafted into war. I'm Vince for Resist the Mainstream. If you enjoy our content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep bringing you videos like this. And without further ado, let's get into today's reaction clip.
Okay, here we are in overtime. I know I'm not in my suit. You'll have to watch the show to know why, but we're here with Chris Matthews and Tulsi Gabbard, and the first question is to you. Tulsi, should women be required to register for the military draft? I saw this. This is so interesting. The Democrats, so great at politics. I don't know why they brought it up now. I mean, men, I almost forgot this. Men do still have to register for the draft. Nobody gets...
Well, this is actually something that they also just changed in the legislation through the National Defense Authorization Act. Just a few weeks ago, is now men don't have to register because they're automatically registering them as soon as they turn 18.
Okay.
So you don't have to actually, you don't get to fill out a card or anything anymore.
But I mean, I remember I was about to be registered. I just turned 17 in 1973 when they were still drafting for Vietnam, and it was like, that was the year. It was like, oh, we're not, oh, it's like, oh boy, did I luck out on that one. But they still registered you. Now the Democrats in an election year have brought this up for I don't know what reason, saying now we want women to register because there's 250,000 women in the military right now. And if something was so catastrophic that we did have to draft people, why shouldn't women go? But why bring it up in an election year are my two questions.
Well, first of all, it's very interesting how Bill only really cares about the politics of it. Like, he has no inherent issue with women being drafted, but it's bad politics, so the Democrats shouldn't do it. We'll talk more about that later, but just keep that in mind during this discussion.
Well, first of all, we shouldn't have a draft.
At all?
No, I don't think so.
What if it's an emergency?
Well, the fact that they're bringing this up now, to me, points to the fact that the only reason we would need a draft is because our warmongering politicians are starting wars that they know the American people aren't going to support. When you look at what happened after
they
the
didn't
attack
start the wars.
Well, when you look at what happened, you look at what happened after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Thousands and thousands of people from all across the country set aside their lives and volunteered because they wanted to go and fight for freedom and security and for peace. And you look at what happened after the attack on 9/11. So many Americans like myself, we enlisted to be able to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. And so when you look, to me, it's a big red flag that they're bringing this up right now. First of all, as we have multiple wars burgeoning around the world. But as a you know, I've been deployed 3 times to different war zones. I don't want to be in a foxhole next to somebody who doesn't want to be there. First of all, that bond and that trust that exists between servicemen and women who are, you know, when bullets are flying is so essential. You don't want to have somebody next to you who's like, hey, I don't want to be here. I don't want any part of this. That
sometimes it's
creates
just numbers.
A huge problem.
Come on. Sometimes
well,
it's just
you're talking about life and death.
I mean
you're talking about life and death.
I know, but exactly. And if we need that numbers of troops, there just are the people in Gen Z. They're not going to volunteer. I've seen videos of them talking about it. I'm like, no, you're right. This generation can't do it. The number of people you're going to have is just going to be, it's going to be a smaller force. I mean, compared to, I mean, how many, there's over 1 billion Chinese people. If the war breaks out with them, I mean, I don't want to get cataclysmic about this.
These wars don't just happen out of thin air. I think that's my point.
No, but we didn't start them. We didn't invade Ukraine, and we didn't attack Israel. That's a silly thing to say.
I think the Iraq War was coming right out of the Dick Cheney's office.
Right.
That's true.
Oh, but that war.
That's true.
Yeah, that
okay,
one.
well, that's not Biden.
Well, that's 200,000 dead people over there, and 4,000 of our people, and that was created by the neocons and Dick Cheney. Yeah. They did it. They did it in the op-ed pages of our major newspapers. They started the war, and they enjoyed it.
They did.
So there you have the exchange over the draft. Should the draft exist? Should women be drafted, etc.? Lot to unpack there. First of all, Bill Maher talks about how, oh, America did not start the wars in Israel and Ukraine, etc., which is kind of true. I mean, you can make the different arguments, but okay, let's say that is true. I think that still proves the point, though, because the point that Tulsi Gabbard was making is that if there is a war that is actually important to America, if America is directly provoked or attacked, in the example of Pearl Harbor, in the example of 9/11, more than enough Americans will happily go and sign up voluntarily to go fight for the military. But the reason why I think the argument she is making, the draft exists, is precisely for wars that the American people don't really support, right? Americans will happily die for their country, but will they die for Ukraine? Will they die for a war in Israel? Did they want to die for a war in Vietnam that most people didn't understand? Not necessarily, and that is exactly why Tulsi Gabbard is making the point. Now, let's go back to the whole talk about feminism and whether or not women should be drafted, because in relation to this bill that the Democrats tried to pass, it's objectively stupid, okay? Let me just go out and say that first and foremost. I do not believe that women should be part of the selective service, but that said, in a way, in a cynical perspective, I'm almost glad that they did it, because maybe it'll be a wake-up call to the feminists, right? Because I can happily say, from my worldview, that I don't believe women should be drafted because I don't believe that their place is on the battlefield. But what is that? That is a quote-unquote sexist perspective, they would say, right? That is a view of the patriarchy or whatever. Under true feminist ideology, if it is actually true that men and women are equal, men and women are the same, they have the same roles in society, and even go so far as to say it is perfectly fine for men to compete against women in sports, why should it not also be the case that if men have to be a part of the draft, if men have to go fight war, then women should also have to go fight war, right? There is nothing inherent in the feminist ideology that says that is wrong or says that that is inconsistent. So hopefully it'll be something of a wake-up call to the feminists to say, hey, maybe, you know, your ideology doesn't make a lot of sense, because that is the logical conclusion. But as we usually see with the feminists, they're perfectly happy with the parts of feminism that benefit women, right? When women get to do the good things, the better things, oh yay, we love feminism so much. But when it also suggests that women might have to do the bad things, the hard things that men usually do for them when it comes to society, oh, suddenly we don't like it so much. So there you go. Hopefully maybe that is a wake-up call. And as for Bill Maher, I don't understand exactly why he thinks women should go fight wars. That's kind of a odd opinion. I'd almost say to a degree it's woke, but whatever, it is what it is. That said, folks, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But until next time, I've been Vince with Resist the Mainstream. Peace.